Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how QuickConverter handles CSV files. There are no real standards from banks for CSV files or like spreadsheets that they generate. Unlike OFX or QBO or QFX files, which are these middle ones I have listed here. Those ones are easy and I highly recommend using those when you can. But if your bank only gives you a CSV or that's what you have, or any kind of delimited spreadsheet, you can have it delimited by, tabs or pipes or semicolons. Then this video is for you. So basically, QuickConverter is going to identify and automatically import files that are set up in a way it understands. So I'm going to show you that in the first file that we import, and that's just the sample bank account. Open, and QuickConverter automatically assigns everything, so you don't even know what it did, or that you probably won't even know that there's this window here. If QuickConverter doesn't find the header row at the top, or the columns, it doesn't find these column names, then it won't assign the data to the rows correctly. So it needs at a minimum date, description, and amount. It doesn't need check number or memo. So if your bank or credit card doesn't provide that, that's not a big deal. So that's the table, and that's your spreadsheet basically. This section here is trying to keep it simple for you so you don't have to edit the information in Excel to use it in QuickConverter. And I'm trying to make it so that you can just open the spreadsheet in QuickConverter and assign columns. So these are the columns in the spreadsheet, and these are the field names. Here, the check marks allow us to select a different header if that row has the header information, and some banks don't have them. So you'd select the top one, which is just the letters. And some, like Venmo, have the header several rows down. So these field names here are the field names that you're going to use in the QuickConverter needs. They're not exactly what's over here. Like if there's a credit and debit column, which some banks and credit cards use, you can switch it and turn it on and assign a credit and a debit column to that. In addition, you can add multiple descriptions together into one massive description, which is really useful for Venmo actually. And if you find that it didn't separate the information correctly, or find the delimiter automatically, for instance, it's the delimiter in your files, not one of these 4 common ones. You can use a custom one as well. But most of the time it's comma or tab. That's what I see most of the delimiters used as. So since we did that one, let's go ahead and import another one. The other tabs, let me back up a second. The other tabs are direct fill and columns to splits. They're more advanced, and I'll get into those later. But let's show you another import where it uses credit and debit. So what we're going to do is we're going to import transactions. We're going to overwrite it. And this actually is exactly the same as the other one, except one difference. It has a credit and debit column. So if we look at our table, we see we have a debit and a credit column. And I actually made a mistake when I separated them. I left them negative, like they were my amounts. But QuickConverter actually fixes that automatically and makes sure that when it puts it in as an amount, it comes across correctly. Normally, they would just all be absolute positive values, and QuickConverter will set those to negative also. So, QuickConverter understands that this is a debit and a credit, and it's not gonna it'll compensate for mistakes. So that's the credit and the debit columns, and it's automatically assigned. Now, let me show you one other thing. You probably noticed those two little buttons at the bottom of that. If I've been making changes in here, like I had made some modifications in here like that. Now, I realized I really want to have the description also in the memo. Well, and I don't want to lose all the work I did. Let's say I did a lot of work. I can set that memo right here to description, and I'll update the editor rather than overwrite it. When I update it, it keeps my work, but it's now made the changes that I wanted. And Big Corp is in both. So I'll show you the other one, which will change it back to memo. And we're going to overwrite it, and it'll clear out my changes. All right, so that's the first two. Let's go into another one. I think the next one's no header. Yeah, so we'll open up that. Now, QuickConverter doesn't know what's going on. It says, I can't find a header. So let's go in to select the header. Now, we're going to see that there's no header in here. So the column names are going to be A, B, C, D, and E. And they're in order here, but it wouldn't matter. You could put them in any order you want, because sometimes the columns are, and oftentimes the columns are in any assortment of orders. But in our case, they're right in order exactly how I have them here in QuickConverter. So I've assigned them, and this is date, description, amount, check number, and memo. And I've assigned them right there, overwrite it, and now everything's popped in just fine. Let's go to the next one. So in the next one, we have all absolute. Now this one's a problem for QuickConverter. I don't have a setting in here yet to handle this, but I have a bank that provides me my all of my transactions as absolute positives. And it looks like this, where everything's a positive. And they have a separate transaction type column that is credit or debit, and it's supposed to tell me what that is. The best thing you can do right now, and you can create a formula in Excel or Sheets or numbers or whatever you use, and based on this, it'll create another column that'll have the correct positive or negative assigned here. I have the formula in a blog article, so you can just copy it, modify it for your own use. But this is one example of a limitation for QuickConverter's import right now. Other than that, it should cover probably like 90% of use cases. Let's go for another one. So I'm going to import the transactions here, and we'll go to a sample credit card. Here's another weird thing that happens. It's automatically assigned all the columns because the columns are named correctly. But if we set it to the right account type, which is a credit card, you can see that it's giving me credits for my purchases, and it's giving me a charge for my actual payment. Let me make this a little wider so you can see it. I'm going to remove the class. So this is the payment right there. So the way this can be fixed really easily is you hit invert amounts, and now everything's set correctly. It's inverted the amounts, and this is what you're going to get sent over to QuickBooks, and it's going to work really nicely. So you can go ahead and edit all your transactions, and it'll be fine. On the next one, we're going to do another one here, and that is tab delimited. This QuickConverter will automatically understand that it's separated by tabs instead of commas, but there's no header row. So we need to assign our header row, and all the data is in the right way. If it didn't identify it correctly, it'll leave it as comma, for instance, and you'll just see it look kind of like this. And so you'll need to figure out what kind of separator it has. In this case, it's tabs, so all the information shows up just fine. And we know that it's going to be date, description, amount, number, and the memo. So we'll just go down and enter those in order because I set it up so the examples would move really quickly. We'll overwrite, and here it is. Again, just remember that sometimes the columns are in different orders, so you just got to be careful. It could be the dates column B and descriptions column E, and I've seen them go out to like AZ. Some spreadsheets are massive. The next one is, we don't want to do that. Let's import another one, and we're gonna go to oh, Venmo. Great. This is a great one to show because you see this popped up and now it doesn't know what the header row is. And Venmo has the header the third row. And it's splitting things. Venmo's really interesting because it's like a pass through. So it has funding sources that are outside of its own account, and it also acts as a bank account. So I noticed that they have what I consider a transaction description split across 4 different columns: from, to, funding source, and the destination. So sometimes I'll send a payment from Venmo from a bank account to somebody. And so it'll show up differently than if somebody sends me a payment and it's then put in my Venmo balance, which is like a wallet or a little bank account. And then I can deposit that money in. So I set Venmo up as a bank account in QuickBooks, but it has to be handled carefully. And so here, also the date time's really another kind of date time, which is handled by QuickConverter. So we set up date as date time, and QuickConverter can handle it. And we're going to start creating this extended description. So it's from, and then I'm going to add to, and I'm going to add another one. I'm going to add the funding source. Where is it? Funding source. And then I'm going to add the last one, which is my destination. And this way, if it's blank, it won't add anything. But if it's got information in there, it'll put all of that, all 4 of those columns together into a description, and I'll show you in a moment. Now for the amount of the transaction, I use the total. There's no check numbers with it. In Memo, I throw the note in Memo, and I'm going to overwrite the editor with all that. So here are those descriptions, and here are the memos, and the emojis come through into QuickConverter, but they're not going to go into QuickBooks. They get deleted out for QuickBooks. All my transactions, and let me send it to 2-line mode so we can see these descriptions better. So this is from Steven to me, and it went into my, I guess they call it the Venmo balance, or it's really like a little account. So in this case, it's programming work, for instance, like that. And this is from Steven. And so that one's ready to go. Now this is not I don't have it set up as a credit card. I have it set up as a bank. So just use Wells Fargo for an example. But in my QuickBooks, it's as Venmo. Then you keep going down and you can set up, this one is a payment to, so it's withdrawing from my balance and I'm sending it to a bank account, whatever bank account it is. Let's say this one's Capital One. So you can go down this way and set up your Venmo in QuickBooks and use it correctly. You can also use the match rules, obviously, to match on all these descriptions or the memos if you want. So I think that's a really powerful feature there. Let's import another one and see what we have next. So loan, it's columns to splits. It's another interesting one. So for my bank, not my bank, but my loan for my property, I have, it's an amortized download I can get. It shows my payments, but I often, especially for tax reasons, I want to separate out my interest payment from my principal payment, but it's kind of takes a long time to go and do the splits manually for each one. So I created this other import here, which is if we adjust this, and we can go to columns to splits, and we add a split column. And in this case, the first one we'll do is principal. and this is going to the loan that I own, which is a liability. And then I'll add another, and it's interest, my interest payment, and this is interest expense. It also will take customer job or a class if they're useful to you. And so you can assign those. Yeah. If I just overwrite the editor now, all the transactions have been split for me. So if we double click right there, you can see that everything is amortized. So I don't have to manually enter all that. And that will go right into my loan account. Not my loan account, I guess, but this would go into wherever the payments are coming out of, like Wells Fargo. And so it should make it easy to do transactions in bulk if you have that. That's not the only case where you'd use columns to splits. It could be useful for employee payroll and a great number of things. Let's see here. There should be one more that's going to be a malformed, I believe. Yeah, so this is a malformed. I have a bank that they can't get their act together. They provide me OFX, and that's great, and I use that. But when I downloaded the CSV from them today to check it out, it actually isn't created correctly. When you import it into Excel, it looks terrible as well. And so the same problem happens in QuickConverter. And I'm going to open it up. This is not, there's nothing I can really do with something like this. And if you look at it, it's got date, description, amount, and then they actually don't have new lines for every line. So it just goes out forever, actually, with all the transactions are on one line of text. And so QuickConverter can't handle that. Neither can Excel. So sometimes you'll see that. I've even had malformed OFX files come through, and we do the best we can to, handle these edge cases. But if you have something like this where it shows up weird, you're either going to have to go in there as a text file and fix it, or you're going to have to get the OFX file, which is better. Or call the bank and see if they can give you something that's a better piece of data. It isn't always, sometimes there are bugs in QuickConverter, but sometimes the banks also have bugs in their system. All right, well, that should be a pretty good overview of how to use the CSV field mapping options in here. Now I'm going to now most of that's done. That's going to help 90% of people. I want to talk about the direct fill tab. This is a kind of a special feature in here. It's beta. It's not. It bypasses the validation. It's really powerful. But if you have all your data, and this is useful if you are maybe taking information from one version of QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online and trying to move it over to another company file or QuickBooks Desktop, the columns will have, you can export your transactions in a spreadsheet, and this will take those transactions and take your payee, your account, your class, and your customer for each of those transactions and send them in and assign them directly to the transaction editor, so you don't have to do any data matching or anything. It can save you a lot of time. It doesn't work with split transactions. So if you're taking your transactions and they're all split and then you want to move them over, it won't work. But if you have just a bunch of single transactions and you already have the correct account name and other names in there for payee or whatever, that will save you a tremendous amount of time, because it will, let me pull up it'll automatically fill these other columns here. Let me show the other ones here. It'll fill these 4 automatically for you, but it does skip validation. So if it doesn't match what's in QuickBooks, QuickBooks will create those payees or accounts for you, and they may not be the type you're actually looking for. Like the accounts, it'll create them as maybe a bank account. Payees might all become as other names instead of customers and employees. So you got to be careful with that one. All right, that wraps it all up. That's all the advanced features in the CSV mappings tool. Go ahead and message me or tell me if you need any other instructions or help. If you run into a snag, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day.